Well, again, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. We're about to get started. This is Lydia Bean. How long have you worked here?
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. Wow, I think I've been with the college for about 20 years now, so quite a long time, and I am with the education department. And I want to thank Sean for inviting me to be part of this
Certainly,
collaboration.
my pleasure. Yes, I'm Sean Kennedy. I teach in history, and I've only been here 16 years, not like this.
I think you're longer than you. I
Yes.
can't believe it.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing you when I first got here. Oh, there's another faculty that's been here longer than me. Yeah,
40 years. I mean, come on, that's
a lot of experience here. Yeah, welcome aboard. We're happy to present this transformative concept of growth mindset in this discussion, and we hope you guys are able to join in the chat or open up your mics towards the end of this. And at any point, if you have any questions, feel free to, at any time during our discussion, to interrupt us. You could turn on your mic, you could turn on your discussion. Just during the discussion, if you aren't saying anything, just make sure your mics are off. But other than that, what do we have to get started with here?
All right, so I like to think of this as a journey. We could call it an educational journey. We could call it a psychological journey, but we are going to be exploring mindsets today. There are two. One is a fixed mindset. We're going to be avoiding that one, hopefully, and moving. It does stress us out. We're going to be focusing on a growth mindset, and
now relax.
Yes, very meditation mode here. And as you can see in our PowerPoint, we're surrounded by growth, growth of our plants, and of course, growth of ourselves.
Is that plant bugging you? That's right next to you. That's hitting your ear.
What is it?
See how it's in your ear right there?
The plant, the fern. The fern is, I'm on the wrong side. The fern in my ear. It's tickling me a little bit, right? I've got a little bug there. And so you guys, the whole point of today is really we want to. I like thinking of it as harnessing the power of this growth mindset, and we really just want to achieve our true potential. I guess that's the point of today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the way we're going to start out this, we need a little bit of a warm-up exercise. It's kind of a cool, chilly Friday, is it? It's a Friday. So we're going to
change pace for the Valley.
It is. So we just finished leap year and starting in on our March time period. So we're going to do a little bit of a warm-up exercise. And the exercise is going to be, let me move to the next slide of our PowerPoint.
Happy 4th birthday to all of the leap year babies out there. Maybe 5th. For some of our students.
Give me just a minute to advance to the next slide of our PowerPoint.
Producer.
We have an amazing producer here.
Simon Rodriguez, thank you very much. It's not responding.
There we go. It is. So what we're going to do is an exercise called an origami penguin. And Sean here, your instructor.
I did not agree to this. You're gonna make me do this?
We're all up for a challenge today.
Yes, that's true.
So if you would, from home, I need you all to do one thing. I need you to get out a sheet of paper. It can be a piece of printer paper, or it can be just a piece of your notebook paper. That'd be fine. And your task is very simple, okay? You're going to transform this two-dimensional piece of paper into what you see on your PowerPoint screen. You need to convert it into a three-dimensional, work of art like the Japanese do. And we're going to put a little bit of meditation music on for you if you would. What you're going to do is you're going to create what is on the screen there. Of course, I want you to have fun with this, okay? Enjoy the process, right? We always want to enjoy it. I want you to be creative. I'm going to give you only about 3 minutes. So I'm going to get my cell phone out and I'm going to time you. You can either do it in the air or you can do it on a piece, on a tabletop, but by whatever means necessary, transform that flat piece of paper, if you would, into something that looks like a penguin. All right. Have fun. Enjoy. While you're doing that, you can enjoy some water or some coffee. I'm just going to sit back and chill. Professor Kennedy over here is bending and folding. And by the way, in origami, you don't use any scissors. You don't use any glue or anything. It's just using the power of your hands, your fingers, folding, bending, twisting, tugging. Does take a little bit of patience there. Somebody's hurting himself up here. There's definitely some wrinkling going on. You got this, man. You got this. If you don't know, origami means, if you translate it, ora means folded, and gami actually is kami, which means paper.
Paper.
And it's an amazing tradition in Japan. They come up with all sorts of things. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is an actual piece of sculpture. It's a little origami crane.
It's really nice to hold. It's soothing.
It is soothing.
Well, folding paper, Lydia. Not looking like the thing in the circle there.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I see yours has a some kind of a head.
Mm-hmm. Some kind of a head.
It's coming along. Oh, you were sorry.
I'm origami. A big one.
It's not bad. Can we work on that bottom half a little bit? You got this. I'm hearing some sighs from your history professor up here. I'm seeing a little bit of a temper tantrum coming out. Just a slight one. There's some.
Please, Lord, give me the strength.
We've got 30 seconds left. See if you can pull it together. Pull it together, man. Screwed the whole thing up, he said. It's progressively getting worse up here.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Hopefully the producer beat that out. Family-oriented show.
And for young audience.
Yes. Kids only.
It's actually not half bad, dude.
Okay.
Not half bad. All right, we are stopping the clock. Stopping the clock. And we are going to talk about, I'm going to put this on display. Check it out. Not half bad, sir.
Well, perseverance, patience always gets me through these challenges. What you see here is mere perfection.
It is perfection. He has a good attitude here at the end. And I'm going to ask you, when you get home tonight, you're going to put this on the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. You're going to put it on the counter. You're going to show your wife, Brandy. And she's going to be very proud of you. You're going to show your son. Mm-hmm. You're going to say, look what I did at school today.
I'll wait till his friends are there. Guys, come here. Check this out, what I did today.
So you all, let's talk about what happened, all right? And you're welcome in the chat, or if you want to turn off your microphone, we're going to talk about this a little bit. And I want to talk about 3 areas, all right? Where I want to talk about how you behaved, what you were thinking while you did this, and what you were feeling. So first of all, and I'm going to ask Sean here. So first of all, I want to.
Oh, sorry.
I know you're trying to look at the chat so we can see comments.
Go. Yeah. I was just checking my Instagram real quick. Are you saying something?
Checking your TikTok too, then?
Yeah. Okay.
So the first question I have is about your behaviors. Did any of you, as soon as I gave the exercise, did you just say, nope, I'm out. I'm not going to even, like, I gave you that piece of paper. I'm going to lean down for a second, get a piece of paper. I gave you that piece of paper and you said, nope, not going to even attempt this. Did any of you start it and then you quit? Or did any of you, which I have to give you a round of applause, you actually went all the way to the end, right?
It's the least I could do.
So those are our behaviors, right? Mm-hmm. So there's quitting, there's trying and then frustration, quitting, right? Yeah. And then there's persisting all the way to the end. Did some of you, in terms of thoughts, immediately think, I'm going to fail at this, or I'm going to succeed? Or I may not succeed and have a beautiful penguin at the end, but hey, I'm going to try something. It may coming out looking like a boat at the end or a hat at the end, but hey, I'm going to try.
Yeah, that was my latter attitude towards it. fully expected I wasn't going to be able to get it. But I thought, well, since the camera's on, I might as well.
Yeah.
And not half bad. I'm sure there's some improvements to be made on that crumpled mess over there. But,
so
enjoyable. Hey, beautiful.
Do you think mine looked like that the first time I did it by myself?
Most likely not.
No, it looked like yours, Sean.
And understandable.
And I had the same feelings that he did. You know, I wanted to make the attempt, but I did have in my head, well, I probably don't have these skill sets, right? And so that's another thing we probably thought in our head. I mean, have you ever had the skill set? Do you have artistic skill sets, Sean? I mean, do you?
I plan on teaching, but yeah, no, I'm not. I don't do any painting or anything that we traditionally thought of as artistic. But definitely, I approach teaching as an art form, and so this is my creative outlook. We did have some. Well, to be honest, you didn't say we couldn't, so I immediately looked for instructions online and followed them.
But you know what that is? That's a creative skill set. That's a thinking out of the box skill set. So I love it. No, I didn't give you any instructions whatsoever.
No,
so
that's scary. I knew it was going to look a hot mess, but I tried my best.
hot messes and trying, right? Embracing the challenge. Good for you. What about feelings? Did anybody want to express what kind of feelings they had when we started this project?
I had feelings of frustration, being slightly humiliated with our broad audience out there, all 8,742 of you. But as I was getting some sort of shape there, I was like, okay, with some instructions, thanks, Lydia, I could probably figure out how to create an origami penguin.
Yes. And some of you also may have been angry that you're here in a workshop and you're thinking, what does this have anything to do with history or philosophy? You know, what kind of skill sets is somebody here teaching me? Some of you may have experienced joy. You know, when I go to a workshop and you're playing meditation music for me and I'm getting to exercise the right hand side of my brain, I'm getting to be creative in a different capacity. Did anybody?
Yeah, someone else came in and said it was time, so I wanted to be sure it was done well before it was done. At 30 seconds, my fingers started flying. LOL.
I like it. So the time pressure actually motivated your behavior. So a motivation. And in my case, time pressure actually frustrates me and sends me into a tizzy.
That's a good way of framing it. Because, yeah, I could be in a tizzy, I could be tense, but I could also be, I'm motivated. There's a time limit here. I've got to get it done within this time limit. So I'm going to get what I can get done within this time limit.
Exactly. So you guys, the reason that we had you do this little warm-up exercise this morning, producer, if you would, I have control now. Producer gave me control. Thank you. I like that. Is that this was a very simple exercise, but it actually gives us insight into what we're talking about, which is whether we sometimes have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And I don't want any of us to be labeling ourselves like in this exercise because we did something a certain way or another way, that we're always a fixed person or a growth person. These things are dynamic. They're on a continuum. But in this particular exercise, if you did certain things, we were leaning in one direction or another. So some of the signs that we may in this moment have had a fixed mindset. Well, what do we think some of those signs are?
Of Sean? A fixed mindset? Giving up would be probably the paramount kind of indication of a fixed mindset. A negative talk, like what I was acting. But like, yeah,
fabulous acting.
Just banging on the ground. Just I can't. I'm so dumb, right? That kind of. Don't say that. But yeah, just those kinds of things I think would be indications of a fixed mindset for this particular project.
Exactly. Giving up before you even starting, not embracing the challenge, even saying things about the two of us, like, this is a stupid workshop. It's not teaching me anything about history or a philosophy or things that I need to be successful in life, right? Not making a mistake in it and already seeing a fold not going the right way that you want it and saying, well, what's the point in even trying? right? What do we think are some of the growth mindset?
Keeping at it. Like, so if you stuck to it for the whole 3 minutes, that's a growth mindset. And so if you didn't engage in negative talk, if you didn't throw a temper tantrum in front of a bunch of people on camera, that would be definitely a sign of growth mindset. Maybe looking towards, I'd probably look towards Lydia, maybe, am I doing this right? You know, looking for some immediate feedback. And like one student did, looking for hey, you didn't say we couldn't look for instruction, so I took advantage of that resource and I figured it out.
Exactly. And that's so important, right? The idea of if you try something and it doesn't work, trying another strategy, right? Whether it's seeking a mentor, seeking someone else, or looking it up online for instructions, because I didn't say that's not cheating, right? Because I didn't say you couldn't do that. So this is all what we're talking about today, guys. So with that in mind, I am at the end of our workshop, or we are going to give you those amazing instructions, right? So you do know how to indeed build an origami penguin. And I also made you a little video. It's like 7 minutes long, sorry. But so you have actually the correct instructions how to do it. And I'm really going to encourage you to, not during the course of our presentation today, but sometime before the end of the weekend, we both want you to actually make this thing. All right. And so you're going to have a constant reminder. And this is a version of mine. And I made, like, in the course of doing this, I think I made, like, I don't know, 50 origami penguins. And so I have this skill set, guys. I've never made an origami penguin before, but now I know how to do it. And this is a symbolic representation of no matter what intelligence we don't hold in an area, maybe you don't have a math skill set or a history skill set or biology or whatever it is, or you don't have an ability in, I don't know, a sport or a business or something like that, we can always develop it, is the idea. And this penguin, whether you're like Sean and you're going to put it on your refrigerator tonight, you're going to put it next to your computer, it's this constant reminder that you can develop, you can improve using certain kinds of strategies. And we want to not only talk about these ideas of mindsets, but we actually want to give you some tips and techniques to develop that kind of a mindset.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good reminder. And that's probably key. If there's any message you get out of this discussion here, reminders are nice and required.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
should we do our little skit?
Yeah, let's attempt this. Okay, I'm getting out of here.
All right, so we'll just jump right into it. You guys will catch what's going on here in just a second. So. Oh yeah, come on in, come on in. Oh, hi, Dr. Bean. Have a seat.
Hi.
Let me just finish up. Oh, hold on. Let me just finish up putting these letters in boxes. We're doing our strategic 3-year plan. Something you faculty just never get. But anyway, you're here for your evaluation, right?
Yes,
okay,
so
this is your 1-year evaluation. Well, let me just jump to the chase. I've got nothing but great things to say about you. You are a fantastic faculty member, innately intelligent. I mean, you must have been born with this, I assume, but whatever the case is, your talent is unprecedented here. And I think you are a shining beacon for all faculty members to look up to. And so that's all I have to say. Please, you can go. I have much work to do here, but thank you for your service. Keep up the good work and don't bother me until next year.
Sir. Wow, I really don't know what to say about that. I appreciate your comments.
You should, yes.
I appreciate that, definitely. But I'd really like to focus on the work that I'm putting in here at the college. I've put in a lot of work and had a lot of strategies to improve here at the department and my teaching and with my students and some of the projects. Could we talk about some of those, the effort that I've put in and maybe some of the things where I could improve so I could be a better teacher and faculty member? Could we work on, could we talk on some of those things?
I'm busy. I didn't have a chance to even look any of that stuff up. I've got a lot of important work to do here, but you know what you're doing. You're great at it. Keep it up.
Yikes.
So you were praised. You're intelligent. You're a shining beacon. Did you feel fulfilled in this evaluation? Is this something that you would hope for future evaluations?
Oh, you guys, you know, he was just giving me sunshine and rainbows, right? Sunshine and rainbows, but it was all about my raw talent, my raw abilities. And you know, on the surface, it seems like it's great, right? On the surface. But those things were, you know, you could say your God-given gifts. It's something that was, you know, in the genetic coding, but we're all given raw materials. We're all given those raw materials, and each one of us has those gifts, but it's what we do with those gifts, right? So when we come in as a student or come in as a faculty member, like, no, it didn't make me feel good, right? Because everybody in this department has amazing talents.
I would never want to be singled out as the shining beacon for all faculty to look up to. I would be like, no, please get the light off of me.
No, and it so much, it also just puts you on this pedestal, and it makes you feel like, well, I don't know, it makes me feel like I'm afraid of challenge, actually. It makes me feel like I can't, like, I'm going to, it makes me feel like I can't take any kind of a risk. It makes me feel like it's just a lose situation. And I really do want to know how I can be better at my job, but praise me for what I'm doing well, and critique me so I can improve.
Yeah, right? That would be the making of a good evaluation. For the chat with that skit, which person was demonstrating a growth mindset and which person was demonstrating a fixed mindset?
Great question.
Yeah, does anybody have it? You can turn on your mic too, just to say that person was growth, that person was fixed, whichever it appeared to you. Dr. Bean has the growth. Yes, indeed. Right. Yeah, obviously. Right. And I was being over the top ridiculous.
He almost deserved it. You wanted to be like, in that situation, you know, you almost don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, even if I took it down a notch and was like actually engaged with you, just those praises alone I would just feel empty if I was receiving that. Like, well, thank you, but okay.
It's actually
a waste of my time, but okay. You're busy.
There's confusion. There's embarrassment.
Yeah, no one wants to be gloated over for no reason. Like, okay, is there a reason for this? Like, and you were asking that in your growth mindset. Is there something that I've done that you could point to?
I actually remember a story based on this. Michael Jordan, the basketball player, he said he remembers when he came back and people were just like, oh my gosh, you're just so amazing. You're so wonderful. And he's like, people were praising him so much that he felt like he was almost godlike. And he was like, I'm just a regular human being like everybody else. I just worked so hard to attain this, right? And if you put in the work and talent, you can also achieve this. But he said it was actually embarrassing to him.
Understandably so. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, so yeah, this is an exploration, a journey, as Lydia put it, on the growth mindset, and something that we really want to focus on. It is indeed transformable. It's something that if you can embrace this, it's not going to just help you with college classes, although indeed it will. If you can embrace this and really explore it, right? With a growth mindset, you'll stumble employing the protocols and the strategies for a growth mindset. I do daily, right? And it's not something that you get locked in and it's just this enlightened sense of being, I am in the growth mindset. No, not at all. You will bounce in and out. It's a struggle from second to second. You might have days where you're just flowing with the growth mindset, but the fixed mindset will always be there to kind of drag you down, right? And I think a good tactic is to go, I hear you, fixed mindset. Thank you. It's helpful to hear, keeps me grounded sometimes, but I'm going to choose to listen to this growth mindset voice in my head now that it is there.
And I think one of the things that you'll notice is that you'll have what are called like fixed mindset triggers that pull you in. And some of them might be when you, for example, when you're facing a really big challenge, and you'll notice something like you'll tell yourself like, this might unmask some of my deficiencies, or it could be something like you're getting criticism, constructive critique, and you start getting defensive or angry that somebody's giving you that. It can be things like somebody is doing really well in something that is also a skill set for you.
Comparative.
And you start getting maybe a little jealous.
Big trigger probably for a lot of people.
Yeah, you get jealous or a little resentful, or if you're in a growth mindset, you'll say like, oh, can I be motivated or inspired by this?
I look over their shoulder. What are they doing? Oh, I get it now.
Yeah. Another thing is if you're making a mistake or you fail something, and do you see that as kind of like, oh, I'm not good at this, and you shy away from it? So for me, it's a lot about triggers, because we all can find ourselves. I mean, you might look at our producer here and the two of us, and you say, oh, well, they're always in a growth mindset. That's not true. We everybody can have a fixed mindset.
Yeah,
anybody can have one.
Yeah, it's almost a dance, like, and that's powerful to even recognize the triggers, because then you could have that internal dialogue of, oh, somebody was just giving me constructive criticism. I got defensive. I'm recognizing that. I'm choosing to put that away for now and engage and to sit. And a lot of what I find really beneficial with this is the ability and the practice to sit with those icky feelings that come with the struggle, the process, and sometimes, and maybe even oftentimes, failure. That's feeling, I failed. And what do I do now?
Right.
And sit with that.
And I want to add to that. That's a very powerful statement, because once you reflect on it, you say, I failed. I like take a test. I failed on something, but it doesn't make your identity. It doesn't mean you're a failure, right? You have to separate the act of failing from your identity and your worth and your value. And I think that comes through the process of reflection.
What that brings to mind is often students, and I get it, right? The pressure is real. And it's when we say, embrace this process, I could hear you saying, he doesn't understand. I'm working, I have a family. This is understandable. Often students, when they're faced with that kind of pressure, they get these thoughts in their head. And this is a fixed mindset that can approach in your mind of, I need to withdraw, right? And sometimes that is actually necessary.
Yeah.
And I did it as a student, right?
So
sometimes I took too many classes and I was trying to work full time, raising my daughter, and I realized, oh, I can't do 6, right? That it's understandable. But when you get to that point, try to ask yourself, am I just feeling frustrated with this process? Is it just because I failed this test or this quiz even? That's not really going to be of any importance in relation to the final grade. Am I just going through a bad spell right now that if I just get some rest, eat something, I can work my way out of that? So it's important to, self-reflection is a huge part of the growth mindset as far as I can tell. So these are just opportunities, I think, that you can present to yourself when you're faced with real pressure of what to do next.
And just to add to that, all of this is a process. And I think a lot of times we're rushing so much to the end goal. And when we take that time to reflect, we just want to rush things. And growth mindset takes time and patience and effort. And we just want to get to the ends, that end goal so quickly. But learning and growth takes time. And so just sometimes we just have to back off and take time to think. And sometimes it is talking to other people, family, friends, get a clarity of mind to realize, again, you aren't the problem. You aren't the failure. You maybe need a new strategy. You need to just persist a little bit longer. You need to seek out resources. There are other means to get to where you want to go. Sometimes stopping, as you said, like dropping a class is the answer, because maybe you took on too much in this case. But a lot of times there are other strategies. You just haven't tried those strategies yet.
Yeah, and to seek out the strategies. Yeah, this is why we are here. And that's our currency. If you come to us and saying, this is too much, is there anything you think I could do differently to make this at least manageable? Yeah, we might not have the response that you're seeking. It might be like, oh, what you need to do is to have some study schedule and put a little bit more time over here and there. And you're like, well, no, no, just kidding. But we've got a great comment from a student here. Your value can be measured by others, but your true value should be determined by your own internal measures of what your best effort is. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will always see yourself as a failure. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, wow.
Very powerful statement.
Next time we have this talk, please, I can't see your real name here, but NR, you're welcome to come into the studio and give us some more of that, because that's what it's all about.
Value and worth comes from within, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Simon, if you're able to put that quote into the chat so students can read along, I think this can springboard some further discussion here. This is from Yuri Treisman, an associate professor at UT Austin who teaches calculus. And this is how he introduces his class, right? And this is calculus too, right? This is no U.S. history survey class.
Or learning frameworks or intro to teaching,
yeah,
right?
This is the real deal. So most students, I imagine, are already going into this class as tense as all get out, right? Calculus at a university from one of the most esteemed professors in the field. This is how he opens up his class day one. Everyone in this class will struggle. You will confront questions you cannot answer, and you will experience stress. When you do experience stress, you might feel you don't belong here. In fact, that stress is an indicator that your understanding is deepening. It is not a sign that you are not learning. It is a sign you are learning.
Powerful. I love it.
What comes to mind with growth mindset when you hear a statement like that given from a professor to students?
Oh, first of all, this is the first time Sean just introduced that quote to me, and I love it, because a growth mindset means that you embrace an obstacle or a challenge and you power through it. That is when true learning takes place. Not when things are easy, not when you're embracing the easy tasks with minimal effort. It's when you hit that challenge, when you hit that obstacle and you recognize it and you say, I'm willing to persist. I'm willing to power through it. I want to seek alternatives. I want to seek strategies. And that's when the brain turns on. We'll get to this later in the PowerPoint, but your brain is like a muscle. And the way that we train our muscles, right, we have to obviously eat properly, proper nutrition, but it's when we're lifting more and more, doing more and more reps, and when we're lifting heavier and heavier weights. And the brain is exactly the same way. We have these billions of cells in our brain, and 100 billion of those cells are neurons. And when the neurons communicate with each other, they form connections. And the connections get stronger the more that we're learning and the more that we're challenging ourselves. Our brain doesn't grow and we don't get smarter when we're not challenging or when we're not struggling. So they've actually done research and looked at our brain waves and everything, that how that neural net grows. And it's when we're challenging and struggling. So it goes back to this quote, when your brain's hurting, when you're in that calculus class and you're like, oh, this is a challenging problem, this is a difficult problem, and you're struggling with it and you're challenging yourself and you're like, it hurt, I'm trying a different strategy, I'm working. And then when you have that aha moment, that connection in your brain has gotten stronger and thicker and developed. It's amazing.
And this is real. This is not just something that we're just sort of like guessing at. These are studies that have been going on for a good 30 years, thanks to a groundbreaking professor from Stanford, Carol Dweck, who launched this whole idea. And it's only gained more momentum and more of a realization that, no, this is the real deal. And in fact, when I was your age,
oh
man, we were taught, and it was understood that the brain is fixed. Once you have fully developed as a human being, as an adult, that's it. You will not grow anymore, right? And it was sometimes roped in with don't do drugs, kids, which you shouldn't do. But if you do, you're permanently going to damage your brain and it will not recover. And what we're finding is not me, but what these really smart people from universities like Stanford or Austin are finding is, no, just as Lydia was explaining here, the brain does develop, it gets stronger in the exact same way as going to the gym. You don't go to the gym and just look at the weights and think how terrible you are at lifting weights. and therefore I'm not going to do it. You have to actually pick them up, and your muscles will respond going, okay, I guess we're lifting weights. We better develop more matter within the body. So the next time he does this, it'll be a little bit easier, right? And then when it's easier, you're going to pick up heavier weights, right? And this is a lot of why colleges are designed that way. You come in taking survey classes. It's a challenge for the position, the time and place that you're in. If you return to South Texas College after getting your PhD and sit in one of my survey classes, you're going to be bored out of your mind. You're going to be thinking, he's just scratching the surface here. Can we get to the real stuff? For students that have no background in history, it's a perfect environment to be in, and it is going to challenge you. And indeed, just as Lydia was pointing out, your brain will physically grow as a result, not just from my classes, but from all of these courses that you're taking here.
Right, that's right. And we have an article that we're going to share at the end. It'll be put in the chat, and just some interesting studies. For example, they've put, mice or rats or whatever in cages, and they put them in just, bare cages without any kind of stimulation. They just eat and sleep all day. And then they've done things where they've put them in with other animals with stimulation and toys. And then they've measured their brains, and they've seen how they've grown. And that neural net actually changes. The ones that had the stimulation, the ones that had the toys, they've had to figure out things, and their brains have changed because of that, And then we've done it with humans, obviously, right? And we compare our brains. We've measured whether they had a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And then we've taught them how to do a skill set that they've never had before. In the article that we've shared with you, it was juggling, for example. They didn't have that visual motor ability, and they taught them how to juggle. And then afterward, they measured the brain. And sure enough, their brains, the connections became stronger, and the actual neural net, when you look at the density of the brain, it changed, right? So it's a concept called neuroplasticity of the brain, and actually our ability to through experiences, through effort, strategies, through good effort, trying harder and more challenging things, we can rewire the brain.
Yeah,
really fascinating.
Yeah, and harkening back to Carol Dweck, I think her original study that launched this whole movement, praise for intelligence can undermine children's motivation and performance, right? Without even reading the study, this title is perfect because I think it gets to a lot of what we're talking about here. So praise for intelligence can undermine children's motivation and performance. What comes to mind when you hear something like that, or if you any prior knowledge about this study that you want to share?
Well, I'll tell you just about the idea of the word like praise and the word smart. Okay, so when you say something like say, Sean, you take a math test and you did really well on it, and I said, oh, Sean, you did so well on that math test, you're so smart. By praising that fixed ability, it actually backfires because I'm praising your innate ability, and you don't want to take on any kind of a challenge. You don't want to take on any kind of a risk because, again, you're already smart.
So not be smart,
right? And so it's like win or like a win or lose game here. But if I actually focus on, well, what did you do to get there? Going back to that thing with the professor, our little skit earlier. If I focus on, well, what did you do? What was your process? Did you, implement a strategy? Did you put a lot of persistence when you hit an obstacle? What did you take? You're more likely to persist the next time you fail, right? So we never want to praise a person's innate ability. We want to praise what they put into it. You want to praise the process. And of course, it also goes with the word, stupid or dumb. Well, you don't want to.
Yeah, of course.
Right. We don't want to focus on those words at all. But we want to get away from praising innate talent. Like, and the same thing goes with, sports or business. Like, you're so good at playing, playing baseball, or you're so inherently talented. So we really want to avoid that pedestal, narrowing the approach. And do you have a thought there with that study or that research?
Well, I just heard of the study, so I haven't looked at the study, but I just looked at the title of it and was just like, wow. What comes to mind is it sounds counterintuitive, right? It sounds like, well, of course I want to tell my child he's smart, right? Well, that should motivate him to be smarter, right?
Lowers.
Yeah, but the exact opposite is at play almost exclusively in any kind of setting. If you're being told that you are proficient just by your innate ability, look at what you just did. It's going to take the wind out of your sails.
And it not only lowers the performance and the motivation, it actually lowers the enjoyment as well.
Oh yeah, because if you're not upholding the standards that you did yesterday when everyone was praising you, now you're frustrated and tense, and now you truly are, you're falling short of being smart or talented.
Exactly. And then you'll only pick, like, as you look at the slide that's up, just as a side note about the two mindsets, you'll also always just go back to picking the easier tasks, and you won't keep challenging yourself. And then doing the easier things over and over again, of course, that gets boring, right? You're not embracing a challenge, trying something new, trying something outside of your comfort zone. And as we know, we've been in this field for some 20 years. If you always do the same things, you hit a rut, you get bored, you're not enjoying things as much. You have to try new things to enjoy your life and your relationships and so forth.
Yeah, and my students probably attest to this, especially students that have taken me multiple semesters. They took my 1301 out. Probably what you'll notice is I am never the same. It's always different. And what you'll also notice is I'll try to do something. I think it's going to work, and it's an utter failure. You guys are looking around me going, what are we supposed to do? And the reason why that's happening is this is the first time I've ever done this during this semester, ever in my career. And so
you're modeling a growth mindset to your students, because sometimes you try something and it might not work.
Yeah, and if I fail, I'll feel bad because I'm failing you guys. But I'm always thinking that, okay, that didn't work that way. I thought it was going to work. I anticipated this. It didn't turn out at all like that. So what could I do differently? And sometimes, though, the reason why I'm willing to take a risk on this is sometimes something happens that I did not anticipate, and it worked. And so I'm like, this is the way it was supposed to be. I thought it was going to be this, but that's the way it turned out. And that was much more beneficial for the students here in the end. And the other thing is, even if I do failure, there's just no benefit at all. I do not identify with that failure. I'll feel bad about it. I'll reflect on it, and I'll think, okay, I will never do that again. Or if I do that, I'm going to not do this aspect of it, and I'll lean more into what seemed to have an inclination of working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the discussion of, the idea of smartness, just kind of launching off from that and why we shouldn't do that. But just another benefit of the idea of growth mindsets, besides enjoyment, students also do in the end get, having a growth mindset, they also get, if we want to focus on in game, right? They do get better grades when they have a growth mindset. They also are more resilient in the end. They are more adaptable. They have better relationships with other people.
Which is all about growth mindset. I wake up daily failing with my relationship with my wife, right? And it doesn't destroy our relationship. It gives us an opportunity to learn, and she will tell me, I want you to communicate a little bit better with me. And then I go, oh, yeah, communication, that's key. And then I see the results, and I'm like, that's motivating. I'm going through this. I don't like the process. It's uncomfortable, and I fail, and I'm wrong, but I'm not going to get resentful and defensive because she's simply communicating her needs to me,
which would shut down the relationship. Yeah, which it would, yeah, exactly.
And it's clear as night and day. If I go in, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I go in with a fixed mindset. If I can reflect on that, going, wait a minute, she doesn't know what kind of day you had, right? So we're home, we're safe. Let's engage in a growth mindset, and instantaneously the mood changes.
That's right. Which is also less stress and anxiety on individuals and on the couple or parent-child. It doesn't matter what the relationship is.
So this is why I say this is a transformative process here. It's not just something, I learned this in college and I applied it in college, and now college is done, so I'm done with it. No, this is something, if you could really employ this and practice it, it will carry with you for the rest of your life. You'll have a very fruitful, anxious-free life. Right? If you're in a fixed mindset, anxiety just completely disappears. Yeah, is there another slide that you
Yes.
want to take a look at?
So let's see. Let's give a couple of let's say a couple of more tips about having. I think we're skipping through a little bit. We talked about neuroplasticity. A tip for developing this too is, and this is something I talk about a lot in my classes, is the difference between what I usually call process thinking and endpoint thinking. The formal terms for it are focusing on performance goals and learning goals. So performance goals are like the end, and goals are goals. You're in a class and you want to get an A in the class, or you want to pass your final or your midterm, or we have a New Year's resolution and you say, hey, at the end of the year, I want to have a certain weight. I want to weigh 150 pounds or 200 pounds or something. And so these are things that occur in both a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, that you have a measurable accomplishment that you want to have, again, like a grade. And in a growth mindset, though, yes, you want to achieve that, but you're more concerned with what happens along the way. Again, we keep saying this thing about a journey, a continual process of development, because you're focused more on the learning that's occurring along the way than just the destination, just the end point. So when we're talking about here at school, try to focus on what you're learning along the way that will help get you to that destination. So on the screen, of course, we have speech and education as an example. But so like you're in a speech class and you want to get an A in a class, well, what's something that you're going to learn along the way that's going to help you get that A in the speech class? And what's the number one thing everybody's afraid of in a speech class?
Public speaking. The whole point of it.
And people,
worse than the fear of death.
Yeah, people say that they would rather die than give a speech.
Yes.
So we learn what are some strategies that are going to help me overcome that fear of standing in front of those little buggy eyes, that people are going to shame me, or I'm going to be embarrassed, I'm going to be humiliated, right? So if we can learn strategies to overcome the fear of right now that we're up here giving this presentation, we've been doing this for a long time, but do we still get nervous?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but we still have to have a strategy to overcome that, whether it's teaching in front of a small group of students or in front of this camera or in front of our colleagues or whatever.
Oh, and yeah, to that end too, what I often try to impart on my students is that stress and being nervous is not something to push away.
No.
You want, that is a motivating factor, which somewhat indicates, or actually precisely indicates, that you care about your time and your effort that you're putting in.
Right.
You do not want this to be a waste of time. And so that is there to keep you alert, to keep you engaged in what's happening in front of you. Okay, the instructor is saying something here. I'm going to take notes on that. The student just raised their hand. Oh, I have a question. I'm going to raise, you're in the present moment, right? What you don't want that to develop into is not only shutting down, but before you shut down is when you feel that anxiety. Stress now has bubbled up into anxiety. And I would surmise that that is the product of a fixed mindset, a cumulative fixed mindset that never was self-reflective, never said, I like this process. We have these gardening motifs here. And anybody who's been into gardening, sure, I can't wait till the tomato is there, but the whole process is enjoyable. You got your hands in the dirt, you're smelling it, you're watching the buds starting to develop. You're like, whoa, look, there's all sorts of flowers on here, right? You give it fertilizer, you water it every day. You don't just plant it and go, you better grow and give me some fruit, right? You enjoy the process. And this is, I think, what we're really trying to strive to encourage every one of our students is enjoy the process. The grade will follow your effort.
That's right.
Always, always. Another tactic, I think, is, I learned this about my junior year in college. My goal is to earn a B, right? That'll get me, I want to go to grad school, so B's will get me, I wanted to go to state school. I didn't have any idea of going to Stanford, so B's are going to be good enough. What often happens when you go for the B, you end up doing enough of the effort to earn the A, right? So that is another aspect of where I think growth mindset can be easily employed in your day-to-day here at STC.
And a part of this too is not focusing on proving yourself. not proving yourself to other people, and just focusing on, again, it's focusing on the process, the enjoyment, the purpose of why are you doing this? Like, is it for your own satisfaction? Is it for your own growth? Is it for, you really want this career in the future because, you know, you're going into social work to help kids, you're going into teaching, you know, to help kids, you're going into history because you want to learn about the rights of Americans, and so you can change voting laws. Like, why are you doing this? And if you focus on the why and your purpose and the larger picture, I think that gives you meaning. And then again, you're enjoying the process, right? And then, as Sean said, the end goal will come. Yeah. Right. We already talked about this, but another thing that I want to remind you all is, we've said this before, but words are very powerful, right? So not only praising the process, but praise the instead of the person, but there's also power in the word yet. All right. So a lot of times we say, well, I can't do this because I don't have the skills. I'm not a singer. I'm not a dancer. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at this or that. So try to add the word yet when you start finding yourself falling into the fixed mindset, right? So have you noticed lately anything that you're telling yourself that you're not, or in the past, something that you weren't good at?
Oh yeah, parenting. I'm constantly saying, I'm not the parent my son needs yet. And so the next time he shows up and I show up, I'm going to be that parent. And so that's a constant struggle, because I don't know what kind of day he had when he comes home from school. He might not be in the mood for me being the parent. And I have to recognize that. And if I don't walk away going, I failed as a father. I'm a failed father. I go, oh, he's not in the mood to talk. Whatever, you know, he's going off with friends, right? So I'm not going to tell him, no, I have some fatherly advice that I need to bestow, right? It's always a yet, right? I'm in the process of realizing what this means to be a good guiding force to my son on a daily basis.
It's a wonderful example, right? It's a continual process. So I'm not, and that it's not time for that conversation yet, but we can have that conversation later, right?
But yourself.
So, yeah, very similar. I mean, here at STC, we're constantly developing new skill sets, and even actually this collaboration you and I have right now is an example of that, right? With Simon Rodriguez in this studio, you know, we've never done this particular setup, and you know, we're not all perfect at any of this, but we're all three of us are willing to take risks, and that calculated risks. And I think that's a really important part of a growth mindset. And we have to be willing to make mistakes and be okay with that. And so I find myself, I've always been, I would say, when it comes to innate talent, I'm by no means a genius ever, and I never would have claimed that ever. I have so much to learn in this world. But when I was going through school, my parents did always encourage me, like, oh, go try that out, or have fun in that class, enjoy it. And so I really felt welcomed into academics, which was really good. And even to this day, I'm like, well, let me try it out. I may be horrible at this, or I may not understand something, but I'm willing to try it because I can develop that skill set. But that was not true in the world of sports for me. I was the klutz. I was disastrous at things. My little female group and I, we always poked fun at each other and said how disastrous we were at every single thing. I think we really blew up that idea that we were terrible at sports. And so I wasn't until my 30s until I embraced the idea that I could actually develop my athletic skills. And now I really enjoy it. So definitely we need to use that word. I'm not good at this yet.
Yeah. And constantly, that is the key word. I think the fundamental to the growth mindset is that word yet.
Yeah. And there's also, we can sometimes call this victim or creator language, but it's also just other language. And this takes real skill set to work on this. And it's just subtle changes in how we say things. So for example, how many times do we catch ourselves saying, I give up? Like, oh, I'm frustrated, I give up, I'm done, I'm out. But we can change that to saying, like, I'll use a different strategy, right? Like, whether it's a math problem or it's you're working on an essay for English or something. Another one, like, this is just too hard. Ugh, I'm out. Too difficult, too challenging. Instead of giving ourselves that patience, the reflection time to step away from something and saying, you know what, it may take some time. I may need to seek out some resources. I'll hammer away at it. I'll work at it, right? Or something like, well, this plan A, this strategy didn't work, but okay, there are other strategies that I can tap into. Or my friend can do it. We compare ourselves to other people instead of going to them and say, yeah, they did great. They got an A on that test. Let me go tap and say, what did you do?
Yeah.
What was your strategy? Let me study with you. Let me form a study group, you know? And so it's tweaking our language, which changes our mindset, because our feelings and our thoughts and our actions are all related.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is, and this is where this is not definitely an innate, attribute of anybody. There aren't growth mindset people. There aren't fixed mindset people. And I'm just thinking, I'm fortunate enough that this far in my career, I think almost always I have that dialogue of the growth mindset. What am I missing? I'll use different always when I'm teaching.
That's wonderful.
I've been going to a gym, lifting weights for the first time. It's true. When you get in your 50s, the muscle starts to fall off. And so you don't. So I've been doing this for the last 8 months. And yeah, often in the gym, I'm not good at this. I give up, right? I'll put down the heavier weights and pick up the lighter weights, even though I know I could lift. It's just hard. Oh, so I can't make this any better. Yeah, this is too hard. I made a mistake, right? The coach will come up to me and saying, you need to straighten out your back if you're going to lift, do a deadlift like that. No, I made a mistake. Constantly thinking like that. But I'll shift though when I catch myself when I'm lifting, employing all of those words that are on that column for the growth mindset language.
And that goes again to show we were giving you guys this assessment in the chat. And so we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves and say, oh, I'm only a fixed mindset person or only a growth mindset person. Sometimes we find it easy to, as you were saying, like, hey, when you're here at STC and you're in your academic realm, your wheelhouse, you'll find yourself in the growth mindset. But at the same time, if it's a certain subject matter, or if a certain area, you might find yourself falling into that fixed mindset. So we are really a mixture, but certain situations we can find ourselves. And that's where it's really important to find those trigger points. And if you can identify those and then pull back and say, well, why am I falling into this?
And real power in that, and that self-reflection. It's just that moment, just take a deep breath and going, all right, this is, oops.
Oh, did I completely turn off? Thank you.
Yeah.
Another thing is seeking feedback from those around us. And here academically, I tend to think of us, the student, you guys are the pilots, you're the pilot of your own plane. You are in control, but your professors and our support staff are kind of like the air traffic controllers, and you really, and in other domains, right? It's fun to do this, especially when they all get into it. Have you ever seen those off, right? They're doing all sorts of dances and fun things.
Make it fun for themselves. They're enjoying the process.
They're enjoying the process. But it's also in your relationships, right? People are always giving us feedback. And sometimes it's just a gentle, and sometimes it's a little bit, sorry, did you go to the gym today? Sometimes it's a little bit more vigorous, but that feedback is there for a reason. And it's, sometimes people call it constructive criticism. Really, it's criticism, right? It's when it's telling you the positives, right? Which we were going through the little scenario earlier, but the criticism is there for your improvement, right? And so we need to listen to that feedback and respond to it. And the second part of it is, of course, when you get that feedback, it's one thing to acknowledge it, and it's another thing to actually act upon it. And in my experience in my classes, a lot of times students will get that feedback, whether, again, tests aren't the be all end all of everything, right? But you get that feedback, whether it's a Blackboard comments, constructive criticism, and you see it, you put it back in that backpack, you just shovel it away, never to look at it again. But it's not about your identity, right? It's not, I'm a failure, I don't know how to write, I don't know how to, I don't understand history. It's really saying this is how I'm going to improve. And here are some strategies to improve. And it takes courage to recognize that and then actually act upon it and do something.
Because you're exposing yourself. There's, we are not on a pedestal here at all, but I could see how a student goes, that's the professor, they know everything. And I don't want to feel inadequate around that kind of perfection, right? I'm totally kidding.
Yeah, we're not inviting.
Yeah, but that could be, that's that fixed mindset talking to you going, yeah, don't seek feedback. You're just going to make a fool of yourself. And no, if knowing that you're going to make us feel good is motivating enough for you, then lean on that, because when you guys do come to us going, I thought I was employing these strategies that you pointed out, but it didn't work for me on this exam. And then we could take a look at it and go, oh, well, just do this a little bit differently. And yeah, you left this out, this part out. So this is why you got this spectrum of a grade here. It doesn't mean you got it wrong, right? A 75% is far from being wrong, right? It's just there was more stuff you could have put in here. And we're going to have another exam later. And there's always makeups. You could do extra, all that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. And just as a side note, Sean's wife and I used to work together in an office here at STC. Right down the hall. It was then called the Office of Professional Development, and now it's called the Teaching and Learning Center or something. And one of the things, we used to have these big events, and at the end of it, I mean, we would be exhausted afterward. And I remember we'd all go back and we'd just be like, we're exhausted. This was so draining. But one of the things that was so important to us is we wanted to discuss, well, what worked well and what didn't work well, right? And so, and it was so important to us. And, you'd think we only wanted to just blow sunshine and rainbows up and just compliment each other the whole time. But in fact, one of the things that we started with was, what was a disaster? What was the bad thing? What didn't people like about the session we just held? And we really earnestly talked about it. And because the next time we had a session, we wanted to make it better, whatever it was, more enjoyable. We wanted really people to learn and have a better experience, right? And so I don't want you all to think we're just telling you as students to do this. We do this too. And I guarantee you, after we have this session, one of the things the three of us are going to talk about is...
We'll be blaming Simon for all these screw-ups that have been happening. I can't believe Simon did.
Why did you let me drop the remote? No. But we're going to talk about what worked and what didn't work. So this is a part of that growth mindset.
Yeah, excellent. Do you have some more slides you want to share?
I think we're to the end. We just want to remind you about the origami penguin. Don't forget to create yours. And what about you?
I have a question.
Yes.
And this, I'm not trying to get mushy here, so put your tissues away. But when I look at the growth mindset, and I'm just scratching the surface on this and trying to employ it and look at the literature and everything like this, what I see, and this is an academic setting, so I have no expectations, but I'm curious though, the source of this, what Carol DeWitt, I think probably was motivating for her, is what we're talking about here is love.
Oh.
Right. And so, and not this kind of mushy romantic love. We're talking about this connection that's permeating everywhere, and any kind of human connection that gives us the magic of a baby laughing, or a dog running up to you with joy, or just being in a room full of 3 people and making these connections with all of you. That energy of love that is connecting us all.
Yes.
Has someone like Carol Dweck or anybody that has followed her tried to examine the source? What I think is she's giving protocols and strategies of self-worth, of self-love, and it's not something that you just,
a wonderful question.
And understanding too, what she often talks about this is that you praise the verb, and what I think she's getting at is understanding too that love itself is a verb. It's not something that is passive. It's not something that you just wait to happen to you. You have to actually engage in that. And it begins, as a student pointed out earlier, within you. And once you tap into that, it could be easily, seamlessly shared with anybody in your presence. And this is what I think would motivate, because we could say, you got to enjoy the process, right? So if you're not enjoying the process, then you're just not going to be successful, right? That's nonsense. I think if we really examine that, this is all about that deep connection of love that we're tapping into using these academic protocols, from these highfalutin professors that have passed it down to us. And they're not doing that. They're coming at it. This is what I've seen with my students, and I've seen the magic, and I want to share this with other people. So there's anything in the literature that has pointed to that you?
That's a wonderful question. And in what I've read so far, I haven't seen that explicitly stated, but it doesn't mean it's not in there. And maybe I just have to look a little harder or look for that terminology. But maybe if not, maybe that is an avenue for research ourselves. I mean,
I'm on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm on it,
maybe,
Carol.
No, I'm jumping right on that bandwagon. But I love that thought process that you're thinking, because when we go back to, we just even think about babies, right? And I think when we first started, before the camera started rolling, maybe we talked about this, but you know, when you start with a baby and you think, well, babies don't have to be motivated or taught to walk or crawl or walk or speak or do any of this. They have self-motivated. They don't have to be taught work hard. They don't have to be taught,
crawl harder.
Right.
You failed.
They fall down, they get back up, right? They don't have to be
You're
taught.
You're a genius at walking.
Right? They don't have to be taught, oh, now you're humiliated because you fell and you're embarrassed. Yeah. They're just naturally.
That's totally absent from that process.
Yeah. Right? They just keep doing all of these things that we talked about until we start self-imposing these things, right? And so, and again, when we talk about children, we teach them to hate, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Whoa. Yeah.
So the same idea, like they're born loving. They're born loving.
They hate yourself too. That's very powerful. Yeah,
so
something to think about.
So again, in the sense, aren't they born with the growth mindset? Are they born with a love mindset? So where we come along the lines and start putting on these limits and these chopping them off about don't embrace challenges, don't embrace risk, don't do this, don't, like the cause of the environment, where we start shaping them. So I think that's a fantastic question and an avenue for research. I haven't seen it in anything directly. We need to look at that and see if she has discussed that. And
it's probably very hard to objectify. I mean, what are we talking about when we talk? We use love, and so I love ice cream and I love my wife. Really? Is that the same? Like,
I'm going to tell Brandy.
So it's just this. I could see it be for a scientist going, I don't want to touch that because I'm gonna fail. Right? But I could see avenues where I'm sure people immersed in the field can go, no, we could easily put some measures to this and see where love is emanating. What I think it's important is if you're just thinking, okay, I'm checking the boxes, right, I'm enjoying the process, I'm seeking feedback. Right.
As a task list, as opposed to just embracing. But we do have to go back to, I mean, this is, I know we're towards the end of our speech here, but when we go to the schools that perform the best, like Finland, right? When we do standardized testing here in the United States, right? And we have made students hate.
Terrible.
They judge themselves. They think that the test score is reflective of who they are, their intelligence, their capability. Teachers hate teaching because they have to teach to the test. The whole system is
full of hate.
It's all about hate and hating learning, hating teachers, hating the process of school.
I hate myself now as a result of this process. I got nothing out of it.
Finland, it's not about that, right? Wow. Because teachers teach students to learn and to love learning. So it's about love, right? It's about love of the process, love of learning, loving of the teachers love students, students love teachers, right? So
everybody loves each other,
right? So maybe you've hit on
why resist?
There.
Join the family.
It's all about right that.
Love, yeah.
Good way to kind of end on that high note.
Yeah, and let's see if I can make that bigger for myself.
There is a.
Let me I'll go ahead and read it here.
You can read it out loud.
Sometimes overreaching, am I being picked up on the mic over here, Simon? Yeah, okay. Sometimes overreaching for growth can lead to failure. Certain personality types don't permit certain types of social and scholastic interaction and development to the degree others can reach. So the balance is recognizing that about yourself, being communicative with others, peers, bosses, teachers, so that your success can be measured against against who you are and your capabilities, and not against others.
Okay. All right.
thoughts come to mind?
Well, one thing, just as I'm starting to read that top part of it, we don't want to have a false growth mindset. Like we're almost like we're telling ourselves that we have, because we're trying to prove that we are something that we're not.
Yeah, you can't lie to yourself.
Yeah, it's got to be an authentic.
Just like your supervisor in that skit we were doing clearly did not care about you and is just maybe even lying to you about how talented you are. You picked on it immediately. You're just like, this guy is lying to me. I don't respect this at all.
Exactly.
I want out.
Exactly. And I don't want to be telling myself, just because I want to more have that fixed mindset to prove to myself that I have a growth mindset. I don't want to just be inflating my own importance. I don't want to do that either, but I don't necessarily think that's what you're saying. Sometimes overreaching for growth can lead to failure. So I do think that's a version of the false growth mindset.
Well, I think a big part of the literature says that you have to recognize where your present abilities are. So you don't want something too boring, because then you're going to get bored and it's no challenge whatsoever. But to use the gym analogy, you don't want to lift weights with a bunch of people who've been doing it for years and are big muscle bound, and you're trying to keep up with them because you're just going to hurt yourself.
Yes.
You got to find that happy medium, that sweet spot where you're being challenged, yet it's not too difficult. So yeah, definitely sometimes you could overreaching for growth will lead to failure in a lot of ways.
At the same time, a growth mindset doesn't mean that you have to pick everything to work on, right? You get to focus, right? If you did, you would shut down as a human being. It doesn't mean I have to pick everything in the world to do. You get to choose. You can
let others enjoy their fields and their activities and art form, and going, I fully recognize the talent there and the efforts that they're putting forth. Not for me, but I will enjoy watching it.
Right. I don't have to become an astronaut tomorrow, right? I don't think I'm going to be going to space. So, okay, good comments.
Yeah. Please turn on your mics, or any questions that any student has, you can get in the chat on the mic. We definitely, these are great and motivate us going forward. Yeah, we'll hold off on that just a little bit. Yeah. Well, it is 12 o'clock. So yeah, go ahead and we're going to send out the sign-in sheet. So go ahead and you guys can sign in for those that are seeking extra credit for this event. Just fill in the appropriate boxes and let me know if you have trouble signing in. It should be open to anybody trying to go into it. Sometimes some students have issues with it.
I haven't sent it yet. You can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and send it. It's 12 o'clock. But in the meantime, any questions or comments, please chime in. While we're waiting for that, we talked about before the cameras, but I think it's worth mentioning that milkshake study.
Yes.
There's a lot more to it, and so I'm going to butcher it, so I'll just keep it myopic here. But this person who's contributing to the growth mindset field, she had two groups, and she gave them the same milkshake, right? But one group was told that this has been fortified, it has a lot more calories in it. She was measuring all sorts of things. And she had all sorts of conclusions. But the one that surprised her is that the group that thought that they had a fortified milkshake that had more calories in it, when they measured their ghrelin hormones, which is the hormone that's released when you get hungry, that motivates you to eat, they were significantly decreased. All of them. Everybody in the study. And the people that had the milkshake, they had the same milkshake, but weren't told that this was fortified with extra caloric stuff in it, did not. And that gets to the power of words that you were talking about. So you can't lie to yourself into this, but is there room for fake it until you make it in this? Because I could see somebody looking at this and going, having a rough time of it right now in their life, and in a season of being depressed and anxious, and going, oh, well, yeah, clearly I'm not going to be able to lie to myself, because what I'm going through is miserable. This is terrible. It's very difficult, right? And these two people have no answers for me. Is there room for faking it until maybe writing things down, saying I'm worth it?
Well, research has shown that fake it till you make it does work, right? There is power in that.
And this isn't lying to yourself.
No, self-belief. And there are, in positive psychology, has things like before you go into a speech, for example, and that you're nervous, like the Wonder Woman pose, right? Or making your stance bigger and things like that. And also saying things like, thoughts thoughts before behavior and behavior before thoughts. And the research proves that that is true, that you can bring on those behaviors and those thoughts, and it will make you have that happen. So yeah, definitely, your mind, it is your mind, right? And you can control your thoughts and your feelings and make things
You don't have control of much in this world, but yeah, thank goodness we have control of our thoughts.
Yeah.
Very difficult, very difficult. This is why I refer to it in the flyer as a living meditation, because in traditional meditation, you're just sitting there doing nothing. Well, it appears you're doing nothing, but the internal dialogue of the person meditating is consistent self-reflection. They're feeling the weight of the ground underneath them. Maybe the air conditioner is blowing on them. They're feeling the heat, the cold of the room. And they're just noting that. They're feeling, this is ridiculous. I'm just sitting here doing nothing, right? Get up. There's something in the fridge to look at probably, right? I think you can carry this on a living meditation of consistently having this internal dialogue of, oh, I struggled with this. I didn't really quite get the mark on this. I'm going to seek feedback. Oh, there's a fixed mindset coming in saying this is all ridiculous. Give up. I'm going to ignore that from now. So I think there's
power in the belief.
A lot of power in the belief. And it probably works the same way as if somebody praising you with praising your effort strategies, not just giving you this smoke show, right? In the same way that you can have internal dialogue saying that I'm going through this process, I'm enjoying it, and yeah, there's some things I need to work on, but I've got this kind of this momentum going forward. So I succeeded here. I'm going to work on that kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, also I'm trying to go back in my head here. So positive psychology says that when you're positive, rather than when you're negative, neutral, or stressed, all the learning centers in your brain turn on.
Whoa.
So yeah, so your energy level increases, your motivation increases, your problem solving abilities increase, and your outcomes increase, right? So so all of that transforms, and also going back to, and I'm trying to repeat this in my head how it happens. So like normally if you're experiencing an emotion, like let's say I'm happy, so I smile, but you can reverse that. So if you want to feel happy, you put on the smile. So it works in both directions. And I'm trying to remember the psychological name for it. It's called, I can't do it. My psychology instructors are going to be mad at me for that, but it's a reverse. So yeah, there's the power of the belief. So this is the same thing for the growth mindset. Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it, right? And yeah, indeed you will make it, right? Because it does, and the process is part of that too. So you just can't be in a locked room writing "I'm worth it" and just not going out into the world. It will reinforce it, because you'll say, "Oh, I am worth it. I showed up. Yeah. I'm struggling here."
Well, because it pushes you to take actual concrete actions is why.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're actually going to do something about it.
Yeah.
And let's do that example. You said the milkshake example. Let's talk about the student from Berkeley. Let me give that example, because it caused concrete action. Okay, so there was a student from in graduate school in math, and he was running late to a class, right? It is, right? Because it shows the same thing. And he ran into the class, and there were 2 math problems on the board, but he missed what the instructor had said before he arrived, right? So he copied down the math problems, and then he obviously went home, and it's his supposed homework, right? So he struggles with the homework. He can't figure it out. And so, it's graduate school. It's important to your grades, so you better get these done. He struggles for 2 days, but he persists on working on these problems. He finally figures them out, and he goes to the professor to turn them in. And the professor reveals to him that these were 2 unsolvable problems that haven't been figured out by any mathematicians.
Whoa.
Right? They weren't homework problems after all. He just assumed that they were because they were on the board. So this is a thing, like if he had been told when he went into the class, like all the other students, that so your mindset would have told you, why bother, why try? But he didn't have that in his head.
Yeah.
So his belief was figure out the problems.
So the lesson isn't don't ever come late to class.
You hear that?
Yeah. Wow. So that is amazing, right? And he was in a setting that he could handle that too. That's always something to keep in mind, right? So he could have been, a freshman in math, yeah, that would have been impossible. But he had that background that certainly wasn't adequate with a fixed mindset. But since he had that growth mindset of going, oh, this is something I have to do. I'm in this process. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to struggle with it, but here it is. God, his professor must have been completely aghast. Like,
and it's
what?
that idea that like your mind would normally tell you you can't solve this problem. You can't do this. There's nobody else. None of these brilliant minds in math and science have ever been able to figure out what makes you think you can do it, right? And it's kind of like mind over matter. Well, you can figure out this. You're supposed to do it for your stupid homework, right? You're supposed to do it.
Chat here, yeah. Excellent talk, to be honest. I have no doubt that many people who are on this call needed it. Yeah, we all need it.
Thank you all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for inviting us. This meeting really gave me some thing to think about on my own mindset. Awesome. And away I go about my career and student life. Thank you so much. There are many of us who will benefit from your words. That's really good to hear. Who will grow from this and will keep this lesson in our minds forever, and all because you took the time to prepare this presentation for us. It's our pleasure. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Excellent.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, any last parting thoughts?
Parting thoughts. Well, I just say that both of us are continuing to develop our own growth mindset. We started the talk by saying this is a continual journey. I have not yet arrived at the end, and I never will, but I keep striving to be there. And part of that process is working with amazing students and amazing colleagues. So thank you all for being part of that and pushing me to be a better version of myself. And also thank you to my amazing colleagues.
Yeah. I would just say, yeah, if achieving the growth mindset in a consistent, life would get boring. It would just be like, oh, there's no struggle here, right? And
what would be boring? The
struggle is what makes this interesting. It's what motivates curiosity. Curiosity is such a gift because it is a wondrous world out there. To apply the striving for the growth mindset of, okay, it's right there for me, and to know that if you let that growth mindset in, it's not a struggle where you have to go fixed mindset, go away, right? The growth mindset will come in, and the fixed mindset just diminishes. Mm-hmm. It's still there. This is not about getting rid of it, but the growth mindset is always there for you. It's there for everybody. So, yeah, hopefully this works for everybody. Let us know if you have any questions, if there's any last minute chats that we can address here, certainly, but you know where to get a hold of us. So please do get a hold of us to continue the dialogue. Well, I think we accomplished something. So the struggle was wonderful. The process was wonderful. And there will probably be more to come in future days.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.